Hello and welcome, everyone. This is your boy Doc Williams, and today we're going to be talking about Chat GPT. What is it? What's going on? There's more than 1 million users, all within 5 days. We have a special guest to talk about it and how you can get started with your business and understand what in the world Chat GPT is. So, first of all, Dan, welcome. Tell the people who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I am Dan Parry. I am the co-founder of a customer research company called Tectonic, and then I also build no-code apps and services for people that need help.
Love
Yeah,
it.
and I also teach business and stuff as well. A bunch of things.
Yeah. We're and by the way, we're gonna drop it in the chat where you can find Dan all of those things. Okay. So the topic is right now, we're gonna be talking about Chat GPT. Okay.
Mm.
So first of all, I want you to explain what it is. Dan, what is going on? What is Chat GPT?
Sure. So from my limited understanding, because I guess it moves so fast that like you can't even be an expert in anything before like it changes like rapidly. But ChatGPT is basically a chatbot style interface that allows you to connect to OpenAI's new AI, which is, I think they're calling it GPT 3.5, which is better than the one that you have access to via the like APIs and stuff. But yeah, it is seemingly significantly better. But also, I think what's interesting is that it has an interface, which is something that people understand very quickly. So you put in something like a question or ask it to do something, and then it will do it. So, for example, I saw Arvid Carr ask for a Italian recipe, but like one that's like homemade, and like it gave it a lot of nuance in the description, and then the response for this recipe was really clear and really good, and it seemed like it knew what it was talking about. So yeah, you put in something and then you get a seemingly mostly accurate response back.
Yeah. So right here, first of all, we got some people in the chat. It's great to see you,
Hello.
Erica. Thank you so much for being here and everything there. Always supporting the show. And Jay, first of all, I know it is early. I don't wake up until 10 a.m. So this is the morning show. And what are you doing on LinkedIn? It's crazy what you're doing out here. So again, thank you everybody. And ask any questions if you don't know what ChatGPT is, how you can start making a business out of it. What do you have business ideas? Let me know in the chat so we can talk about it. So if I'm understanding what you're saying, Dan, GPT allows you to basically ask it anything, and then it's going to be able to give a response based off of AI and what it's learning. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And it's like a large language model, which has been like trained by the internet, all the things that it's learned. So, for example, from what I understand as well, like whereas GPT-3 was trained up until like 2020, I think. So like it scoured the internet, all the robots did all the things that it did to feed it into this machine learning model, which can answer questions. This is now up to like 2021, I think. So it has more current knowledge. And then it's also been tweaked by humans to stop it from being terrible. But it's easy to make it terrible, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, humans will find a way.
Humans will find a way. Yeah.
So what we're going to do real quick, if you have not signed up for, we're going to go and do a test drive real quick so people can see the power of it. And then also we're going to talk about the 5 business ideas that we have, what you could be doing with it. Okay. So if you go to openai.com, you're going to be able to first create an account. Now, if there's a lot of traffic, you're having trouble creating an account, like just bear with it. But you're going to be able to first go to OpenAI, create an account. You can also learn more about ChatGPT before you get started. And then once you create an account, it's going to have you sign in and you're going to be taken here. This is all it is right here. It's going to tell you to be able to have examples of what you could be asking it, the capabilities, and then also, which I really love, the limitations as well. So that way, they're not pulling any punches. It's just telling you exactly where it's at right now in the development. So I'm gonna ask a question real quick for it. I'm going to just say, how did Logan Paul get famous?
Mm.
Okay, so very basic. Some people will be like, you could ask it anything. Well, in the chat, let me know what you want me to say. Now, right here, you're seeing that it already came up with an answer,
Mm.
which is pretty interesting how fast it works.
Yeah,
And
the speed is actually insane as well.
it almost reminds me of, you could use this like Google, how you search. So instead
Mm.
of looking for all these blog posts, it's already distilling down what the internet's saying
Mm.
without going to all of these ads, blog posts with all these ads and, people with trying to optimize SEO. It's just saying, here's the answer. So
Yeah.
let's take a look at it. Before I read it, Erica says, I bought UChat, very steep learning curve. Now there's something simple I can use. Thanks for bringing this to my attention. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. So, like, say for instance, Open Chat just told me Logan Paul is a popular social media personality and actor who first gained fame on the video sharing platform Vine. And then it tells me what he did and
Mhm.
what kind of videos that got him popular before he went to YouTube.
Mm.
And pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
So one of the things that's really interesting about ChatGPT is that it also has context. So now that it has the context of the question that you asked, you could say, for example, tell me a bit more about what he did on Vine, and then it might be able to, uh,
I'm doing it right now.
yeah,
Oh, look, it
yeah,
even says, as I mentioned earlier.
yeah. I mean, it's a bit sassy. It's a bit sassy. That, as I mentioned earlier, Dan. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So and as you're going through it, it's having that conversation
Yeah, precisely.
because it's keeping on track.
Yeah.
Also, I can rate it if I'm saying like, yes,
Mm.
I think that's a good thing,
Mm.
and just keep going over and over again to say like, is it
Mm.
doing a good job? So it's constantly getting feedback
Mm.
as you're using this as well. Um, Erica saying you could use this to create blogs. Yes. See, now you're taking some of our talking points for business ideas as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and she says use it for Google News articles. Yeah, this is powerful. It can really allow you to start creating a good chunk of
Mm.
content if you want to use it as your own blog as well.
Mm.
Um, I cut you off, Dan. Keep going.
No, no,
What
no,
were you
no,
gonna
no.
say?
Yeah. That's exactly it. I think that you can use it to create blogs, and you've seen lots of people use GPT-3 to be able to create lots of these businesses that allow you to create like blog posts based on like a simple entry, like give me 5 blog ideas about mental health, and then it'll give you the ideas, and then depending on your needs, you can go in and delve in a little bit deeper. So I guess the challenge though is, if everybody is writing the same questions and everybody's getting the same results, then how do you differentiate?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, let's try your idea out. First of all, so you said, um,
Mhm.
give me 5. What was it?
5 blog post ideas um, about mental health.
Okay. So right here, I wrote out the number 5. I was thinking about if I should just do 5. It's thinking for a moment. You have
Mm.
the dots right here.
Mm.
So now it's thinking about its life for a moment.
And one of the things that might be interesting is that, like, so GPT, OpenAI has some certain rules around the kind of things that you can ask. And I know that mental
Oh.
health is one of the ones that is on the fringes of things that you can ask about, because obviously you don't want it to.
Oh.
So it might be trying to find an appropriate answer, or yeah. So that's
Mm.
interesting, because I know that if you use GPT-3, it gives you easier. It would
That's
definitely.
interesting, and it's thinking about it. So that goes back to one of the constraints of
Mm.
but it actually makes sense why it's trying to be careful with that, because you could go down a bad rabbit
Yeah.
hole if you
Yeah.
start going that way. That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So okay, so now we got it. An error occurred.
So that,
Um,
and we don't
yeah,
know what that error is as well. So it could be, is it, are there too many people using it, or is
yeah.
it um yeah.
And tell a little bit more about, you were talking about constraints, what it will not do. What's
Mm.
another area that it
Yeah, so
won't
like
touch?
violence. So if
Hmm.
you ask it about like how to do something violent, it won't
That
usually
makes
it,
sense.
yeah. But the thing is, because of the way that it's set up, you could ask structure the question in a way to still get the answer. So
Yeah.
like for example, you can say like, as a yeah, I can't think of the correct structure right now, but you can like basically say like, as a person who's trying to stop violence, what are the top ways that people could,
Mm.
and then you can see the answer. So like there are still ways of being able to, and that's what's really interesting about this tool, is that depending on the way that you input your question or set it up, you can almost create like almost little mini universes. So for example, saw a person create like a user interface for a Linux machine. So it's like, as a Linux machine, give me some things, and you're just like, oh, it's just generated a Linux machine within this
Yeah.
conversation for you to be able to like do then Linux commands in there. And I'm just like, it's mad.
Okay. That's actually really, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we're gonna deep dive into that a little bit
Mm,
more. Let's do a few more cases of this,
mhm.
because this is really good, really
Yeah.
good. Let me go here. So what I'm doing, everybody, I'm just setting up so you can see some examples.
Mm,
And then let's go. So there's a couple things like Dan said earlier, companies that are being made on
mm,
GTP3 or different AI.
mhm,
An example of that is definitely Writer. I
mm,
use it, but it allows you to build out anything, YouTube descriptions, interview questions, and you're just using the same exact power of that.
mm.
Let me log in for a moment. And
So you're using a similar power. So
exactly, yes,
so from my understanding, GPT-3, which is what a lot of these tools are using, has effectively like a way for you to access it using APIs to be able to access that model. However, ChatGPT, I think, is on a different model, which doesn't allow you to connect to it directly, so, which is why it's got that interface that we've got that you can see in ChatGPT. But with GPT-3, you can pay for API tokens and access to be able to use that within your own app and service.
yes, and thank you for mentioning that. And Mark,
Mm,
Mark has something that's going to be tied directly into GTP3, but
mm,
he's using it with Dolly
mm,
instead. Let me pull this up real quick. So we're gonna look at two examples, and I would love to see what you think about this. Okay, let's go to Dan. He's on Twitter. And what we're going to do, everybody, we're going to show you examples of people using GTP3. And that's the other layer. There's tons of people using
mm,
um, different versions of AI and things like this. But
mm,
let's look at one that's exactly using Dolly, which is from the same company.
mm,
So think C. So create your own stock images from the web using artificial intelligence.
mm,
So here you're able to generate. So I want a beautiful view of this sailboat on the sea with mountains in the distance. And then it just made that.
mm,
And so we were talking about sometimes if you're looking for a certain stock photo,
mm,
for you're always like, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, or sometimes you just don't want to search through all of these stock photos. This one can make it directly. So actually, Mark wanted I need someone to look at their phone and I
mm,
need it to be over the shoulder shot. And
mm,
it made the image of
mm,
that so then he could use it for a client.
mm,
So there's tons of different ways. And so he connects it to GPT-3, or excuse me, Dolly, and then it's just taking tokens per month.
Mm,
So
mm.
again, really good. I wanted
Yeah.
to do one. Oh, what was your thought on that before
Oh
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
go on?
Like really smart. And obviously Mark is a genius. So yeah, shout out to Mark. The
Yeah.
what what I really think is going to be interesting is that because access to these tools is going to become more ubiquitous, there are going to be loads more of these tools come up, like and like AIs. So you've got your stable diffusion, you've got a bunch of the other ones. What's interesting though is the language that you use to generate your prompts, to write your prompts, to generate the images and the text that you want. It's now going to become so powerful and so interesting. So, on a very basic level, um, my GIF game or GIF game, depending on where you are, is excellent because if you go to Giphy or Jiffy and you type in like you're looking for someone laughing, you'll get certain responses. However, the more articulate you are, the deeper it gets into the gifts, that ones that people don't really use that well. So when you're describing your images or describing your terms and words to write your prompts, the more elaborate you are, the more expressive you are, the richer and more different your images might be as well. So yeah, that's really going to be that's a bit of a game changer. And I think actually what's interesting is it's got to force people to learn better English. um, and then another thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna force people to, or not force people, or potentially make people more interested in other cultural things. So, for example, I've seen lots of people create really cool art, but I don't know enough artists to say make art like this artist. So actually now I'm like, oh, that artist is actually really cool. Let me see the kind of stuff that they've done. But I don't. But if I don't know enough artists, then I can't. My prompts aren't going to be good enough. Like there's only so many like Picasso style things that you'll see before you're like, okay, let's find some cool people that are doing cool things. But yeah, then there's the conversation of around creativity and artists and it being trained on like art that it wasn't allowed to be trained on. So yeah, there are positives and negatives to it, but yes, it's crazy.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a whole other legality in going down that rabbit hole. But that's really interesting.
Mm,
Yeah, I think yeah. If people haven't seen Stable Diffusion, it's a
mm,
again, it's a platform that allows you to create pieces of art
mm,
based on different styles. And I
mm,
think Stable Diffusion has one of the best styles.
mm.
Stable
I also
Diffusion, correct me if I'm wrong,
I
is
like
Mid Journey is different, correct? Two
I
different
think
things.
so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Midjourney and Stable Diffusion are different.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, what were you gonna
yeah.
say? Sorry.
Oh no, but just saying around the terminology, it becomes a lot like learning magical spells. So like I just imagine it's a bit like Harry Potter, where oh, and I now know Ex Patronus this or whatever, and now I can do this spell. But then also you can then start remixing your spells to be able to create even more interesting things. So yeah, it's we're in a whole new ball game of creativity and also of um like ideas and application to things as well.
Yeah, that, along with that, what you were saying, the application, which this is from Andrew
Mm,
Davison. He said, let's. It says, GPT, Chat GPT, help me get $250 today. Had a Zapier inquiry requiring a code step to do some data formatting. I have barely any coding skills,
mhm,
so would have passed, but typed what I wanted in GPT, made a
mm,
few syntax changes, and the project was done.
absolutely. And this is the thing, like, so when I teach about no code, you need to have an understanding of code to be able to realize how powerful or useful no code can be. But you basically get to different levels of abstraction, right? So you go from like writing to the metal, doing zeros and ones, to writing um, like code, and then you've got visual tools. And then I always had a question mark of like, what's next? this is next. Like, don't, I just have to ask it a question and it tells me the answer. I don't need to learn how to code because it already knows how to code. But obviously
Yeah.
there are intricacies, and there are. I'm not saying that it's going to replace all coders. Like, same thing with no code. Like, there's a place for everyone. But being able to not have to look through loads of things and actually get the answer to your specific question based on what you've inputted to be able to get to a specific answer is going to be really useful, because that's what most people want. Obviously, there are cases for building things fully in code or doing all kinds of stuff, but yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and like you were saying, we're not saying that it can do everything and you
Mm,
won't
mm,
like you were saying, you spells or you still need to know a structure of what you want to
precisely,
happen.
precisely.
But
Yeah,
once you have that, now
yeah,
all these things are at your fingertips.
yeah, yeah. So, like, for example, using the example of writing a blog post. So you could say, write me a blog post, and it will give you something relatively dull. However, if you were to go, write me a very engaging headline that will attract HR professionals in the med tech space,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, cool. Now write me a structure that will keep them entertained, um, and so that they can buy this product. And
Mm-hmm.
then for each of the paragraphs, if you then do start tweaking stuff, and if you start understanding, okay, this is a blog post in order for me to get sales, structuring your is that thing is going to be much better for its goal than just say, write me a blog post.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So we're gonna as we're talking about this,
yeah,
we'll see. Oh
yeah,
dang, you know, it was so fast. I was like, oh, I gotta wait for
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. So, like,
uh
based off of this blog, so right, if you write, like, based off of this title, give me 5 uh, bullet points, um, for the structure of a blog.
all right. So the first of all, the title was uh revolutionizing healthcare, the
Mm,
role of HR professionals in driving change, which
mm,
is pretty great.
yeah, yeah, and
um
potentially, yeah, and specific.
yeah, that's really specific,
Mm.
really specific. It's interesting, yeah, how
So
fast
yeah, so we'll
it's
see if it works, as in,
yeah.
like, because um yeah, again, so many people are using it,
Yeah.
and also the question, and also the other thing is, like, the question may not be right, so like the
Yeah.
spell may not be right, and I
Yeah.
need to tweak the spell in order to get the response that I want.
And you see this too with like Dolly. If you say like on the beach, have a panda holding a
Mm,
paintbrush,
mm,
like just rephrasing things
mm, mm,
really changes everything.
mm,
At one
mm,
point, like it just showed hands and a paintbrush, it didn't have
mm,
the panda, and you just change the format. We're going to change it right now
mm,
to
mm,
see.
mm,
Let's see. Oh, Erica's saying I need a social post to fill virtual events. So that's a good idea,
mm.
Erica. Tell us. I would probably, and Dan, what do you think? I need a social post to fill virtual events. I would probably say um, an engaging social post, or like what's the goal of the virtual event? Like
Yeah,
what are
yeah.
people are going to be getting when they
Mm,
go to this virtual event? That's what I would be asking it.
mm,
So really good things. Tell us more details, Erica, and we'll
mm.
we'll add it.
And I think
Um,
that's where the power lies, is in the detail.
yep.
Oh,
Oh,
well, yeah, cool.
look at that. The importance of HR in healthcare industry, the
Yeah,
challenges facing HR professionals in healthcare,
yeah.
innovative strategies for addressing these challenges. So we just said try again, and it did,
Mm.
which
And then
aren't
it's
bad.
like, so then the next thing that you would then do is delve into point one and say, write a paragraph based
Yep.
on point one,
Yep.
uh, and then um, potentially counter arguments
hmm
as well.
Um,
Um,
if I had this in college, I would have done no work.
Man,
No essays would ever
if
Be completed.
I had this at uni, but and this goes on to a point that I was talking about before. So before this conversation, I have dyslexia. I did not realize I had dyslexia until late into university. I just thought I was bad at university. Had I had a tool to do this, there are two or multiple routes that you go down, but one of them is just like, just do the work for me, or which is what you don't want because you're not learning potentially. But then the other one could be, help me write this more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Help me write these points more effectively. Yeah,
That
it's
that is crazy. That is crazy. And you know what? As we're getting on this for a second, we listen, people were talking about ChatGPT, random guest stars come out of nowhere, great people coming out of nowhere. So real quick, we've got someone else coming to this stage. So wait a minute. Where'd he go? Wait, hold on.
Mhm.
We had someone. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see what's going on with them. Look, I did all of that intro. There we go. Look at that. There we go. Man, you got everything over there.
Magical. That's the intro that Edmund deserves.
What's
Oh
going on?
gosh.
How you feeling?
I'm doing really, really good. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to put you guys on my screen here.
Mhm.
Just trying to move some things around. I'm doing really great. I literally was on my way out to like go take a run, walk, this morning. It's kind of nice and crisp.
Mm.
And then I saw Twitter and I saw that you were having this call. I was like, oh shit, like I gotta join it. And then, and I saw my buddies on there and I just like I just gotta do it. So I literally started texting Doc, or I think I texted Doc and then I sent a message on Twitter and I said, yo, how can I get into this? Like you can't just be meeting and I can't get into this. So yeah. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent.
I love it. I love it. I was not expecting that text. I was like, right now? Right now? Look at that. But I love it. I love it. And by the way, I love the swag right there. I got to talk to some people about getting this no code ops. That hoodie looks very comfortable. You know how I feel about it.
Phil, let's make it happen. Phil,
Okay.
you're watching this. Let's make it happen. Doc needs a no code ops sweatshirt.
Thank you.
And me. And me.
See, did get it?
That's right. Sorry.
International.
I meant when I said I meant both of you. I meant both of you. Sorry.
That's what I'm talking about. That's great. That's great. Well, listen, we want your opinion in a second. First of all, look, you got fans. You come in for 2 seconds, and already Erica's saying, "Hey, you got fans coming out of the woodwork for you, Edmund." So,
Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Awesome. Hey, Erica.
This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Good.
So yeah, now that you're here, tell us a little bit about questions or any of your insights on it before we go on.
Yeah.
We're talking about, we're just going on about how to use it and different business ideas. What do you got for us, man?
So, okay, Doc, I always got to come extra. I do have extra today, but I wanted to talk about it in terms of something I heard, something about search and how this changes search. And then I was hearing discussions of like, how this could help people. And I think I heard dyslexia, like no one needs to start from scratch, and the extra that I brought today is there's actually like a product out there. I don't think they've monetized, but I want to show this to you. And I don't think, Doc, in our sessions, I don't think I showed this to you yesterday when we spoke. So this is going to be interesting. But yeah, my thoughts on it, I just really think the predominant thought on ChatGPT right now, and not ChatGPT, but it's the applications of it, like the API integrating with other platforms. It's how search is going to change from like searching the ether and waiting for a bunch of like lists to come at you to like getting a very specific context driven search and an answer that is just for you.
Mm.
You know, like I'm thinking like, okay, like one of the business ideas I have would be like to run people's tweets through ChatGPT, but in the sense of when people subscribe to this service, they run through your chat, and then you can then use ChatGPT through GPT to then take that person's like tweets or profile and like write something in their voice.
Mm.
You know, just a cool way to like pass it
Mm.
through, analyze all your tweets, and then sit, you know, tell me about 19th century property rights in the voice of X.
Mm.
Just stupid, you know. I was thinking about that. But anyways, my point is just that it's going to change search from going from this like throwing something out into the ether. And today, the best version of search we have is a great list of things and a great ranked list of things that are like predominantly important on the internet. And that's fine. But I still have to go through a list and figure out which one's right for me. With ChatGPT, I just think that search is going to be so different. It's going to be very intentional and very contextual, you know. And the only thing after ChatGPT in terms of giving us the perfect search, you know, the answers we want or we for us, that the next thing is like, how can we read your mind, you know? So I just think this is profound.
So I think that the interesting thing about it replacing Google is it's really interesting because I don't know what your source of information is. If I go into GPT and I type in search and I get a chat response back, I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. I don't know if it's actually true or not. I might have to go and double check something. The other thing as well is so it's the accuracy, the source of information. I love the contextual part, which is, for me, I want an answer to a specific thing. The other thing that's going to be challenging or going to be very interesting is the computational costs for doing all of this is enormous. The OpenAI guys have said so. So they're going to have to monetize soon. One of the ways that they could monetize is probably through advertisers somehow. Because probably, and then do we enter into the same space that Google is in? Because, for example, I hate Google searches. We were just literally talking about this yesterday, Doc. If I'm searching for something and I go into Google, I'm actually going to YouTube. Like, what's the YouTube answer to this? Let me find a video. Let me see the practical application of something. Let me see someone talking about this. Let me see their expertise and let me see whether they are a person who knows what they're talking about. Currently, behind GPT, ChatGPT, I don't know who's giving me the answer outside of this potentially non dangerous AI. But yeah, so I do think the search game is going to change, and I can't even think how, because they're going to need to monetize, so they're going to have to either get people to pay to use it, which people do, but then that doesn't potentially always help as well. What you may get actually though is advertisers training OpenAI or ChatGPT on their own knowledge and infrastructure and life, business life, so that it becomes, rather than it being an interface to OpenAI and GPT 3.5, it's now an interface to Nike. It knows all about the product stuff. It knows Nike's values. It knows how Nike talks. Because, like you said, this is sassy. Like, the tone of voice isn't always going to be like, if I'm talking to if I'm asking a medical question, which I probably shouldn't, I don't want it to be like, well, as I said, Dan, you should probably eat better.
You know, that both of those ideas I like. That I'm hoping that it doesn't go the advertising way, because then you go into all of these biases. And I think with this kind of results, it can skew things very quickly if you have advertisers involved.
Agreed.
I don't know how much it could be. Basically, do we have enough paying users to make this work long term? That's the question. Like, Dolly, Is that profitable for them? Is that enough money for them to just do
I have
credits?
something.
What do you got?
I have something here. So, Dan said something earlier about, okay, first of all, in terms of how many people are going to be using this, let's just and I've been saying this to a lot of no coders, a lot of builders, let's just understand that we're very fortunate to be in this small clique on Twitter or wherever else we are, where we're in touch with the latest cutting edge tech. I mean, let's just admit it, okay? APIs, for example, as a topic in larger society, hasn't even reached let me just guess, 30% adoption. Most small business owners in Nairobi or in Ottawa aren't necessarily thinking about how can I connect my business through APIs to whatever to so we're in this rarefied era. And my point is just this. Even though we're saying this replacing search, this is a controversial topic. I'm not saying it'll totally replace Google. There'll still be plus 90% of people that won't know about this for a while, or will get used to using a landline, just like getting used to using a landline, not going to a cell phone. So I think Google will still exist. What I'm saying will make this proliferate and be a very strong competitor is the idea of getting your own contextual search back to you. And you said something, Dan, about accuracy. And okay, I'm going to be a little dystopian here. Okay. The accuracy kind of doesn't matter because history is what you make it. And what I'm trying to say here is man's greatest power is storytelling, or let me even bring it down, fiction. So kind of the truth is whatever we tell ourselves. I mean, look at big issues that have happened throughout the centuries, racial issues, whatever. You and I know, we know what we heard is the truth. And then we see what's put on the internet, and you just kind of that. So my point is that because of the power of fiction that humans have and wield, if you think of religion, if you think of politics, they're all fictionalized formats. I don't think it's gonna matter,
but
because because here's the thing, because of the tone of voice of whatever the answer comes back to me as, contextually for me, I'm just saying it in a dystopian way. If it's believable, it just becomes your own truth. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's where it's dangerous, right? So for example, some things are objectively true, like the boiling point of water. It's not a story. So some things are objectively true. However, I've seen results where it gives you answers that it makes you, it's like the boiling point of water is 43 Fahrenheit. And it's I don't know. Well, I don't even know what Fahrenheit in Celsius conversion is, so that might be right. But some things are scientifically and objectively true, and some things are more based on story. And I think this is the challenging part that we were saying about open AI and all of these AI services, is they now have a huge moral challenge.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I hear both of your perspectives. This happened a couple of years ago, and Google got in trouble with this. Do you remember when you could search in, and it would be white guy does a robbery, and they're like, do you mean a black man? Remember that? And remember they got in trouble for it because they're like, well, we just took all the information, and this was so bias, and all these things can creep in very quickly with these models. And the one thing that you were saying, Edmund, I agree, but I would push back a little bit. Say for instance, APIs, right? Last year I was going crazy. I'm like, oh, all these things, webhooks and all this stuff. I was telling my dad. Yeah, I was telling my dad, and my dad just started laughing because he's been in computer science since the 80s. He's like, yeah, that's the most basic thing. He just didn't tell anyone. He's like, because no one cares, right? He's like that. He's like, yeah. If I was like, did you know the slash and the question mark and in a search bar? He's like, yeah, that's a query. You're just asking it. I was like, what's going on? So I think there's these layering. I think it's going to be like you were saying. There are still people using dial-up. There's still people using VHS tapes. I think it's going to be a long stretch unless there are very specific global events that push people forward and do jumps like Zoom with pandemic or something like that.
So
We're a generation.
So I disagree in that, for example, I opened up Canva today, and Canva has got the new docs tool that allows you to write documents.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Notion. So you press a plus button and it has a little menu that comes up. It has a thing called magic text. And it's basically, it's
wow, that's a cool branding. That's a cool branding point.
Yeah,
They've
exactly.
taken a UI,
yeah,
an interface, and now they've called it magic text.
Yeah, precisely. Right.
That's
and
awesome.
Now regular people who use Canva don't need to think about APIs or OpenGV. They don't even need to know the background company. They're not thinking about any of the biases. They're not thinking about that. They're like, rah, I can now write my blog post significantly faster. I can ask it questions. I can do all kinds of things. So I think that this technology will soon be really abstract because it's going to get productized like very quickly.
Yeah, and I like what you just said there. I think having layers where people don't have to think about, like, people don't have to think about the mechanisms of a lock to get into the door. Like, you know, I mean, if you ask them, like, no, you just open it. I think, like you were saying, Canva. First of all, Canva's the dumbed down version of Photoshop, right? So you don't have to think about any of the things of Adobe Suite. And like you just said, there's this next version. I think if it starts being an interface with everyday things that people don't need to, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It'll be like that.
Yeah, but folks, remember this, like, adoption cycle that you're talking of, like mainstream, guys, this is like 2 decades away.
I mean, Canva now.
No. I'm talking about the adoption of the mainstream to like.
But like Canva's mainstream.
Yeah, but
version.
Let me. Well, okay. Yeah, but what I'm just trying to say is, like, actually, I'm supporting your argument. What I'm trying to say is that Canva doing it right, it's kind of like where we're supposed to be in 20 years.
Yes.
Like they're making it mainstream, and no one gives a crap about
Exactly.
what they connected to or how they connected to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Oh, before we move on just for a second, first of all, Erica's saying that she loves your idea, Edmund. And I would.
One?
Erica, there was I see this in the chat before, so we could have gone away from it, but she's saying keep saying those things, you know, because are you paying Erica?
I am not. Erica is just a really, really talented person that I happen to talk to. She's awesome. So yeah, if she says that about me, it's there's no payment there. No.
I love it. This was something that Dan was talking about earlier. I just ran it again just to show you. So this was originally we create 5 bullet points from the blog title. From there, it created 5 blog points. And then I asked, create a paragraph about. So what originally we said point 1. So I just broke it down and said, create a paragraph about the importance of HR. And then it created that paragraph right here. So again, talking about how, if you were going to be using this for a blog post, or again, like Dan was saying, you could do each point and then doing the counter argument of each one. You can create a lot of compelling content very quickly that you can put out. And one thing I'll say with Dan, you were saying like, well, how does this make it unique? I think, like you said, your insights, but understanding the format and understanding what you want it to create. I don't think someone from the New York Times, if they don't have a structure of any of this subject, they could ask GTP or ChatGPT about this. They wouldn't understand the follow-up questions to make the rest of the blog that would be like yours. And I think that would be the difference.
Doc,
just the first part.
Yeah, you want me to jump in here? Okay,
yeah.
So what's the original question or the original prompt? Or let me just see that. Yeah, because this is where I want to show you all something. Okay.
So let me go back one. I just put it in Notion. So the original prompt was create a blog post for HR healthcare professionals. And it was create a headline, right? So for a blog post, the headline that Chat then made was revolutionary healthcare. the role of HR professionals in driving change. So that was the headline that it made for the blog post. And then from there, making the bullet points or making 5 points for that article.
Interesting. So I literally wanted to show you something that someone we know, I think we all know Dan, actually built. And I wanted to show something. What I wanted to talk about in just talking about ChatGPT and what that means for technology is the idea that, like how, okay, you can have a SaaS product or a web app, right? And when you have your first 10 customers, you learn something. When you have your next 100, you learn something. And over time, if you're applying your learnings, like your product is just getting better and better, right? Okay. That's going to be so like normal now with applications that use ChatGPT or any of these new like dialogue models that come up, is you're going to build like your use case, which is one I want to show you guys what next. You're going to build your use case, and it's good. And then your use case is, some lines of code tweaking this default answer that comes from ChatGPT. And so what's going to happen is, yeah, you're going to go from 5,000 users to 10,000, but you're going to wake up one morning and they're going to go from ChatGPT 1 to ChatGPT 3. And your product just automatically gets like better. So in coming back to how much, how OpenAI is going to monetize this, I think 2 things are going to be important. I think I would be looking at monetizing this as if we're literally almost at the point where we're digging down the barrel, like we're just going for lower and lower costs. Like they need to have an idea of what that cost like should be in the long run, right? And essentially, like I think pricing it with 2 considerations: accelerating the pace of like price cutting to make this a commodity, while at the same time capturing a good enough amount of value for them to go work on other things, so that's what I'm thinking about. But essentially, I don't think it's advertising. I think 2 things. Of course, there's this like simply paying for your use of the platform. Perfect. That's going to be like probably like the, I don't know, enterprise version, whatever, done. But the second thing I really think about is them becoming an alternative to Google and actually like building a SaaS product that helps like regular users, because they're going to have to monetize. There's like 2 parts of their business. There's the kind of non-monetizable, hugely compounding kind of manual work of building the product, the research part of it, the R&D, right? And then there's the like, let's capture some, return now in terms of making a product that certain sets of customers can actually use. The API is one of those. Another example of a product would be a product they would make. It could be like a search product, but when you use it, you're using like, you're getting a contextual return back to your search prompt. But regarding accuracy, Dan, that's easy. You just run your answer through like a plagiarism like filter or check. And so if it comes back and it says the boiling point of water is 43 degrees Celsius, it's wrong because, well, if you do know it's wrong, it's 37.78, right? But the point is that the answer would be run through like a plagiarism, like, am I telling a lie about this figure type of filter? And it would come back and it would say the boiling point of water is 37.7. I'm trying to say that the search is going to become so much better in terms of returning your question within your context.
Yeah.
But then the idea of whether it's factual or not, that's simply another like API it runs through. And so I think the other way OpenAI would monetize is to create a product like that is free for people to use, and then they can put advertising in that.
I think, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for them and all the other AI tools that are and services that will naturally come out.
Yeah. And one last thing too, I'm not sure if you saw it, but I mean, if you look at what Alexa does, right? Have you ever looked at like how Amazon, how they're influenced by how Alexa gives her answers and everything?
No.
So it's two different. Number one, there is a clear bias, obviously, because it has a master and it's run on AWS, right? But also too, the deep learning, you can basically hack it to, if you start optimizing your blog posts, or basically you're using a style of SEO and backlinking, and you're already doing making it easy for it to understand what you're doing based on your sites, and then you can start influencing what Alexa is giving back in its answers. And there's a whole thing. 4Ds and Gary Vee talked about it, because they're talking about how advertisers could start hacking, in a way, Alexa answers for it to start going to your business. So it's so new. This is such fertile ground. It almost reminds me, and we were talking about this, Dan, earlier this week. It reminds me of what everyone did at crypto when the last cycle of crypto, where people are going to be throwing an ungodly amount of money to do this. By the way, Erica is saying to Dan, are you a voiceover artist yet?
I am not yet, but the cost of living crisis in the UK is rising, so maybe as an additional income stream.
It's a recession. It's a recession. And first of all, Erica, I told him that on Monday. I told him about this on his voice. And Edmund had a product where he could leave voicemails, I believe, with your voice, or a bedtime story. It was one of those two. So you're dealing with the best right here, minus me. But this is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Good stuff.
I wonder. Okay, go ahead.
You gotta let me. You gotta let me show you the product.
Switch. Can you screen share? I'll stop.
Yeah, I think so. Hold on.
Let me remove mine. Okay, when you do a screen share, hold on one second.
Okay.
Can you cue it?
Yeah.
All right, and then I'm gonna add it to stream.
Okay.
Is that okay? Can I add it to stream?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. What I want to show you is right here. So this is a product. It's called Fable ML. That my buddy built. He built it in I think he said 5 days. But I ran your prompt down here, create a headline for a blog post for HR healthcare professionals. It does run on OpenAI's ChatGPT. So as ChatGPT gets better, it just gets better. But I want to show you something. So I ran your prompt and came up with, the benefits of healthcare for healthcare facilities. Then it's writing the blog, developing an effective HR strategy. It lists them all, and then it has a conclusion. Now, Doc, you said something. You said, what about if there's something I see and I want to add it, and maybe I want to write more about that? Well, Izu built this cool feature in here where I can select some text and I can click expand, and I wanted to say more. At this point, it doesn't yet have an ability for me to return a prompt that says, say more about this in the voice of Bart Simpson or something like that. It's not yet there. But that's something he just has to add the capability, or actually not even the capability, just the interface for that. So now I'm expanding a section of the text. Let's see what it turns. Okay, so I expanded. I don't think it did. Hold on. No, that didn't work well. Let me do something else. What if I expand? I'll expand one of these bullet points here. I'll do this one. Creating positive relationships between employees and employers. So expand. And at the same time, it can also simplify long pieces of text. So I thought it was interesting just to show you this because I know we have some products that recently came out, big, raises. But this is something a talented indie maker built in a couple of days. So you see, it expanded that point there with all that.
And I think, this is so cool because I think, again, it shows that you don't need huge amounts of money to be able to build something that uses the AI, But also, I think that because AI is now so within our scene, of course, so ubiquitous and easy to access, actually going down the niche routes is going to be what provides the most amount of value. So, for example, like if you made this tool for like dentists,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
dentist in Iowa, right? Like you
Yeah.
really need to start getting really niche, so you can start training the data on the models on those the nicheness in order to provide maximum amounts of value that like the broad version of GPT couldn't understand, couldn't get. So like
that's great.
When you start going into your niches and you're fine tuning the models, that's when I think the real value is gonna explode.
Yeah. I have a question though. You know, as we're talking about this and thinking about this, we know that this is a revolutionary, like, you know, advancement in technology. Is there a corollary in history where we can draw upon a hugely like exponential advancement in technology and kind of maybe chart, okay, what happened there as this thing was being used in different niche use cases and whatever, and where did it ultimately end up? Because I think that would be a good kind of a discussion to really think about where ChatGPT could go if it is an exponential like technology.
So I think like my things that I've been thinking about are the internet, like that explosive use in the internet from like where, especially with broadband and faster internet came around, where people just stopped moving from just replicating their sales pages in magazines to actually making something that were interactive using the internet. You had all the communication, you had all kinds of stuff that you couldn't even think about, and then mobile, like iPhones and iOS, and like having a mobile computer in your phone in your pockets, like that. We have all the world's information to hand. We could ask any question right now on our phones. And so I think that is it's just, but what's interesting is that they're coming faster and faster. Right? Like,
yeah. I like that question. I think, Dan, I would agree with you, because I was trying to think about, I was like, okay, you know, generations ago or 300 years ago, 200 years ago. But with the internet in this last like jump in 30 years, basically, it's so quick that I think it's a better comp than something that's older. Like if you're talking about like Gutenberg press, okay, that makes sense. But still think about the time it took for making presses, doing all of those things, because of the internet and how fast, and really I would say like the amount of brain power and people can get together to be able to proliferate so quickly. I would think it's closer to something as a modern example than something that's old. That's my first thought on it. That was a good point with the internet. Yeah, even the if the, what is it, Isaac, I can't remember his name, the guy that did Steve Jobs' book, I think it's Isaac Stevenson.
Walter Isaacson.
Thank you. You know, the innovators talk about the history from like Ada Lovelace all the way. And even when you're looking at like Shockley semiconductors and all of those times, it's still so much work of the tubes and how expensive it is. Once it hits internet age and what you can be doing, and really, I got one for you, Dan and Edwin. Basically, probably what, 2009, 2010 with AWS with cloud computing. I'd probably put it there.
Yeah.
Because then once it became into cloud, that's how it scaled. All these startups could scale because now you didn't have to put up these giant servers. You could just pay for it at a cost. So yeah.
What's interesting about the cloud stuff is, like, if you're into tech, then you kind of understood what the cloud was. If you weren't into tech, like, it took so long to conceptually understand what the cloud was. Like, even when I talk to my dad now, he still says, "Oh, it's in the cloud." I'm just like you don't like. Yeah. You don't need to say that. Like, that's just where everything is.
Oh, I see. That's just where everything is. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
funny.
yeah. And like so many things use cloud-based services or whatever, but they don't talk about it. And I think that's going to be the nature of AI within, because
I agree.
it will just be in products where you just, and in services and in help centers and in just like,
Guys,
yeah.
like imagine for advertising, like I'm about to cross the street, I don't know, in downtown Tokyo or whatever, and I have my like AR glasses or whatever, and I look up and I see a billboard with some like awesome shoes, but when I look back down, there's an ad running back to me after like they've run it through these ChatGPT whatever, and then run it through like Runway ML for video and whatever, and then they send me back the ad I'm seeing in Japanese but in English with my own contextual like nuances for me to be like, oh snap. That's what I picture as like
Yeah.
probably 50, 70 years. Maybe I might not even be alive then, but that's what I picture.
Yeah.
It reminds me of course. So if you remember, it was like, what is it, 2002? It was Minority Report. When he was in the metro and in all the holographic. So I agree with what you're saying. It's already, if you're wearing something where it's already geolocation, they can already do targeting ads based on it. So just having more advancing technology, I agree with you. I think again, everything with AR, it keeps coming back 10 years ago. I was like, it's almost here. But like now we're here 10 years later. It's not. But I see 50, 70 years at the most. It's not a problem. Real quick, this is something Dan was saying, and I wanted to just bring this up and see what you guys thought about this. Let me add this to screen. So like you were saying about what ChatGPT could do and it's general right now, it reminds me of this guy. He's a creator in the space. He created something called like the Hive Index, where it's all these online communities. But then he did something very specific where Gummy Search is all of the audience research for Reddit. So it's like the bundling and unbundling approach.
Yeah.
And I think that's what ChatGPT, or when using OpenAI and doing all of these different things, I think it's going to be, now it's easier for indie creators to strip it down and go really niche. I think that's what's going to happen in the immediate future of chat. Like you were saying, Edmund, once big business figures out how to drain the masses or to be able to make money off of larger populations, it's going to change. I think indie creators will do something like this, unbundling what they can do for their audience.
Yeah. Like, for example, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Edwin.
No, go ahead, Dan.
So, for example, if you used AI to build a product for plumbers in Michigan and plumbers in the Sahara, like the training data that you would train would mean that though you may start off in a similar place, the application of your plumbing and the learnings from those customers and the frequency of the issues that come up means that your training data, so like you'll probably get people in Michigan, like plumbers, paying lots to use your software, but then the same thing would occur in the desert and in Egypt, wherever, and because of the information, like, and I think you're right, Edwin. Ultimately, what we're coming down to is context. Like, how contextual is the answer that I'm getting for something specific? And the more specific and accurate and contextual that information is, the more value you could have. So, like, people will pay.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's where the fine tuning and the training is where a lot of the value will come. But like as a base level, these tools are incredible.
Yeah, love it. This is, man, I was not expecting this conversation to go this way. This was me and Dan had a framework, but again, we were saying what was going to happen, and then Edmund just comes out of nowhere, just knocking people, guys. And this is good. I
love it. I love it.
This is, maybe we should do a call-in show. This is great stuff right here. Before we wrap up, because again, you guys are great and having your time. Anything you want to talk about or say, hey, this is a preview for next time? Anything you want to plug or things you want to talk about? Edmund, I'll let you go first.
Things I want to. No, I'm at a loss here. I'm just gonna keep some things. I can't. Nothing I can really say yet.
No worries. No worries.
So mysterious.
But all I'll say is helping founders is just a big part of something I like doing, and I'm gonna keep doing that. But yeah, I can't really plug. I'll just plug my Twitter, Edmund Amoye. You get it there. That's it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. And Dan, what do you got for us?
I guess first one is the words of encouragement, which are, to paraphrase or to literally quote the Web3 space, like, we're still so early. Like, you could, if you've never heard the term API before and like dedicate like 3 months, 6 months, you could be making something that is very valuable and helpful for a particularly niche community, and help and make money if that's your goal, or help people if that's your goal. Like, yeah, it's changing so quickly that like things were true like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, are no longer true, and like things have changed. So yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity to build some really cool things, and yeah, don't be daunted. And then secondly, I just want to say I'm having a wonderful time, and thanking you both for this great afternoon that I'm having.
Good times. I love it. I love it. Make sure in the comment section down below, if you have questions for any of these wonderful people, make sure that you let them know. Also, too, we'll put their Twitter handles and their URLs so you can go follow them, go see what they're doing constantly. So this is just the beginning. We're going to have more of these chats, more things coming up. So again, we thank everyone for watching, wherever you're at, Twitter, if you're on LinkedIn, any of the channels. Please, again, thank you so much for your time. Guests, stay on just for a second. But everyone else, we'll see you guys in the next video.
See you all. Take care.